A little bit there. But look, these guys are LeaaN veterans of their own right. We've talked so much about Nocturns LeaaN experience. Kiki's been there, done that a million times, as has Weekend. So I really do think that Luminosity still has it in them to reset themselves, get past whatever issues they're having, and show up for a good Game 3.
Well, here we are at the rubber match. 1 win for LG and 1 win for Nocturns, the most recent one. Ban phase coming through. Odin first banned, followed up by a Freya. Nocturns don't want to see the Morrigan in the hands of anybody on LG. And their last ban will be the Mercury. That leaves a couple of choices for LG. Last time when Nocturns were in this position, they went for Athena.
I don't know that Luminosity is going to go Athena here. I think they might just go Erlang Shen right away for Weekend. And I wouldn't have a problem with that whatsoever because he played those team fights very, very well. The Gold Fury fight that comes to mind where he insta-kills Zaionsix before the Rama even gets to use a relic. But Luminosity going to take a page out of Nocturne's book and pick the Athena themselves.
Yeah, I think the Erlang Shen might be more powerful for LG in their position, but Noitulover looked really strong with the Athena.
I mean, at the very end, at that last team fight there, you saw 50% HP as they're trying to get away from LG. The Athena ult comes in, and that's a massive amount of damage mitigation. The Anubis ultimate did absolutely nothing to them in that one, and they were able to turn that one around. I like the Terra pick coming back here again. Just give it back to Daelon. He's been doing so well with it all game. Aside from the one little slip up, game 1, you know, leaving the base, but for the most part, he's been pretty hot on this Terra.
Terra selected here. Nocturne's going to go for the Zeus after the fact. Something that they've banned out a whole bunch. And this is, you know, like I said, the rubber match, this is the one that wins the set. And we frequently see teams go to these kind of exciting, dangerous picks. I mean, LG went for the Anubis. That's a whole conversation in and of itself.
Yep.
But I think the Zeus is along the same mentality. High risk, huge reward. I mean, you're the Zeus, man.
Yeah, I'm always excited to see Zeus. I don't know that I would have picked it up this early because now you leave Luminosity with a lot of good picks on the table. I think if I'm LG, I'm going Erlang Vulcan in this spot. Give Geno something that he's comfortable with. It can be a very bad matchup against Zeus if you're misplacing your turret, giving him a free Chain Lightning bounce, but as long as Geno is very wary of that, make sure you're not placing the turret until after Chain Lightning's on cooldown, then this can be a good matchup for Vulcan.
I'm definitely with you on the Erlang Shen. I want to see it locked in, but instead it's going to be Clout's Jing. Interesting. J-Mac, why do you think we don't see an Erlang Shen?
I think it's a little early for it, and one of the things that Zeus really excels at is you jumped onto me, I just drop my entire kit and try and hope that I kill you. If not, I'm still doing a lot of damage for the rest of my team to come through here. So picking up the Jing way early for Clout, he did so well with it in game number 1. He's just looking again to try and keep Zaionsix in this lane. Most importantly, just stay behind or stay ahead and keep split pushing if he needs to.
Clout, the
Always.
Yeah. That right there is, I got no words for it, just another crazy person on the stream. But I mean, that's kind of the fun part. I think that LG kind of, that's important. We just talked about the body language and everything. Clout kind of maintaining this jovial attitude is important for LG to find their victory, especially across the way with the Ram in the hands of Zion. That looked real clean. I want to bring back the the shot that he had rolling away with the fadeaway 180 turnaround. I mean, you can't make that up. Beautiful stuff.
That was really nice. And I think that we might not see Erlang here because these two teams through 2 games, the initiators have been the ones that lose the game. Basically, the last 2 games, the team that gets ahead ultimately ends up losing, but also in these team fights, it's a lot of these late initiations. In game 1, it was the late Mercury ults that were changing fights. In game 2, of course, SmiteVOD's Bakasura coming around the back and doing a lot of work. So I think Erlang, by his own kit, is kind of forcing you to be an initiator, which is a good thing most of the time. But I feel like LG might want to be the counter initiators this time around because that's what's had more success so far this set.
Erlang Shen, the selection for Nocturns. And, you know, I think that this was, I think that Nocturns knew that they weren't getting Baka again. There's no way. Bakasura won the game. You're not getting that selection again for SmiteVOD, who, I mean, if you didn't believe me when we said it in the pregame, he is an SPL level jungler, and he's out here just fragging. So you've got to be wary of that. Nocturns go, okay, you're going to ban over Bakasura. We'll pick up the Erlang Shen, who's usually first selection. If you're Nocturns, you've got to be happy about this draft so far.
Oh. And I really do like the Ganesh ban that kind of just got slid over there. That's forcing Kiki to play something he hasn't played so far today. He's been doing nothing but sitting in the soul lane on him. But now we see a potential for a much more aggressive god. Do you think it's going to be this Fenrir or the Nemesis going in Kiki's way?
Yeah, for any other team in the league, I think I'd put Fenrir solo, Nemesis jungle. The only reason I'm thinking it might be Nemesis jungle is because it's
Nemesis!
weekend. Exactly. But
Nemesis!
Kiki Nemesis solo just seems like something that he would like in this spot. It gives you the ability to kill these tanks very easily, and that is something that Luminosity very much struggled with in the last game, was they were trying to focus out Noitulover, and he would get out Athena ult back in, and then change the course of the fight. This composition is going to really be revolving around that Nemesis ultimate.
I am a giant fan of Nemesis in the solo lane. I think that what she does bring, if that's where we see her, I think is fantastic. And I would rather see Weekend on the Fenrir. I think that this matchup between LG and Nocturns has been largely about the active jungler who's getting in and making the plays. You can't just sit and farm. Nemesis is a character that kind of wants to get that farm on.
Man, this Geb pick is so perfect though for Nocturnes. It's great against the Fenrir because anyone who's getting Ragnarok, you just pop a Geb shield on them, they're out of danger. And whoever receives that Nemesis ultimate, you just shield them, and that might throw a whole wrench in Luminosity's plans. I think Nocturnes has the better draft.
Here it is, guys. This one for all the marbles. One word each. Ryan, who wins?
Nocturnes.
J-Mac.
Nocturnes.
Could it be Latin America taking over Luminosity Gaming? Taco and Finch, take us away.
Desk is saying Nocturnes. I'm seeing support for them out there in Twitter and chat as well. Everyone believing in the LatAm team. Can they get it done here, or can LG close this one out? Taco, how does Nocturnes win this game?
We touched on this briefly in Game 2, Finch. If Nocturnes were able to strip that one away from Luminosity, the momentum alone might be enough to seal the deal here.
Yeah.
But there's only so much to be said with that picks and banning phase.
It looked so strong, I would say, in favor of Nocturnes, right? For LG, there's so much riding on Geno, and Geno having good ultimates in this game. He's got tons of setup between the Fenrir, between the Athena. Oh, and Fenrir on Inbound.
This is such a risk-first reward composition from Luminosity. More importantly, trying to play Fenrir support into the Geb support, this is every Fenrir's living nightmare.
This is going to be very difficult to deal with indeed, as LG now grouping up 5-man, start going through the jungle. They might just be warding here, but if they can find someone, they'll certainly look to try and drop down the hammer. But Taco, I mean, Geb is a good matchup into Fenrir, even if it's not in the lane matching up against each other. I mean, how does Inbound, is it just going to have to be damage that he looks for now, since the control will be harder?
He's probably going to be looking for the Unchained resets by landing onto either Noito or Zion inside of the laning phase. That way it gives him the half-life cooldown. But I'm still not certain he's going to be able to effectively do that, because a Shockwave, Astral Arrows, there's just so much poke and return damage that would come Inbound's way that I just don't really believe he's going to be super successful with cyberbullying a lead.
They're going to have to be very patient about baiting out this Geb shield from Noitulover. A lot is going to be riding on how well he can time the shockwaves and the shield really in particular to try and mitigate what Inbound's going to be doing here on this Fenrir in particular in this early matchup, as it looks like Clout is not coming to lane. He's going to be going to start to strip away the red buff, and they're sending Inbound to defend the lane by himself.
Not a half-bad play here, except Zion and Noitulover, yeah, they have no idea. If they had known, well, actually, they should have automatically responded by going for the immediate invade onto Luminosity's jungle. I think this is a small misplay from Nocturnes alone, because look at how fast they cleared that lane. Inbound is still working on the first wave. They had more than enough time to strip away that purple buff.
Yeah, Clout a little bit getting away with murder now, because he gets the back off. Noitu, instead of sticking around to help the purple buff speed, he ends up going to try and stop the back, but Clout gets that back and comes back in. The Rapid Reincarnation is there for the red buff to strip away, and now that's 2 red buffs on the side of LG, and they secure their own jungle. I mean, they come out of this looking fine.
Clout's still trailing ever so slightly, though, trying to confirm this purple buff won't be able to find that final in-hand, and in fact, there will be return fire from Nocturnes. Finally, this is what we were asking for, was for them to take down this purple buff. So, Clout's level 2, sure, but he is trailing behind Zaionsix for missing out on 2 creep waves.
All right, now that definitely helps, though, that they were able to strip away that purple buff and not let the entirety of LG's jungle go to LG. Now I just have to keep up here in terms of clear speed to try and even things back out. But Taco, an interesting start, sort of recognize they might not be able to get all the clear advantage early.
Here's the thing, though. Even with Inbound jumping in like this time and time again, whether he finds the cooldown reset or not, he's still going to be taking aggro from the creeps for trying to pressure onto Zion and Noito.
Taking quite a bit of poke, and Zion is happily putting in those autos to keep Inbound low. Now there is, you know, some lifesteal there. He does still have plenty of potions remaining, so he can continue to go aggressive. Horrific Emblem comes out to try and slow them down, but they have a sprint of their own, and Nocturns make it out.
Good recognition from Noitulover to expect that this would be an incredibly aggressive dual lane, and having that sprint probably ends up saving not only his life, but Zion's.
But I like this. If Inbound is going to be jumping in all the time, looking to try and trade out damage, then he had to go with the start he went. He went with the Health Chalice and just a ton of health pots as well to make sure he's able to constantly keep his health ticking up and try and make these trades favorable. As SmiteVOD walks away from Weekend laughing the whole way.
He knows after stealing away those right mid Harpies, Weekend wasn't expecting that sort of contest from the Erlang right then and there. Nemesis, though, not a half-bad pick into the Erlang Shen. I think that it could help mitigate some of that early game pressure from the Erlang, just because Slice and Dice is so effective in slowing down that mobility and dealing a pretty significant chunk of damage.
That is the red buff stripped away, and possibly even purple as well. Unchained is pretty good confirm here compared to what Noitulover and Zaionsix have available. So they're going to give up the red and the purple buff.
And I actually don't mind seeing this from Nocturns. I think that they understand, as long as we make it to 30 minutes, we are in the clear here. This composition, if you just compare directly the two drafts that these teams have opted for, and Nocturns have a very clear advantage. That's one of the primary reasons why the analyst desk felt so confident in choosing Nocturns to complete this set.
And remember, the winner of this set will be going on to place Obey, so what a congratulations that would be if Nocturns were able to complete this upset here, right? Then they go on to the complete team of Obey, who've been looking very, very strong here in fall. But you're right, this late game potential, the Zeus, the Rama, and the Geb by themselves are scary enough. You also have Earth and Fury and Terra Root to try and deal with an Erlang Shen as well. This is a very potent late game squad, and that's why LG have had their foot on the gas, especially over here on the duo side of the map with this Fenrir support, trying to establish an early lead.
But establishing a little bit of a mild experience lead is not going to be the ultimatum combo that you're looking for. I mean, this Fenrir still has to try and deal with the fact, how is he ever going to Ragnarok successfully? He can only use that ultimate if Noitulover's shield is on cooldown, and even then, it's still a pretty heavy risk factor involved for Inbound because LeaaN's on the Zeus. This composition is just so supreme for dealing with a Fenrir, especially a Fenrir support at that. I think Inbound is really going to struggle here, and he's already been struggling in the prior two matches.
Yeah, I think this is largely going to be around the Unchained, even more than the Ragnarok, right? That leap in stun is going to be the value Inbound should be able to still have, even if shield is saved for his ultimate. So we'll see how well he's able to use those. As I was going to say we're going to the other jungle there, but again, Inbound playing the Fenrir and support. So let's go to the regular jungle, Weekend. And I want to talk about this Golden Blade start here, Taco, because Golden Blade is great on Mercury, get it every game, absolutely. But is it as good for the Nemesis as well, those splash autos?
Gives him a little bit of movement speed and attack speed, both stats that you can't really go wrong with on Nemesis. And I think the most important factor here is Nemesis does kind of struggle in the early game with her clear, especially when you're comparing and contrasting it to that of an Erlang Shen. So I think Weekend felt like he needed the Golden Blade in order to keep up effectively. Yeah,
and Slice and Dice has been toned down a bit, so it won't be as strong clear, but they commit the Defender of Olympus here, but all it takes is the shield down from Zeus to stop them in their tracks. No way they can keep going through all that damage coming out from LeaaN in the middle lane, so they'll fall back for now. But yeah, I think this is Weekend trying to... It's a great early item for the movement, like you said, for the attack speed, and it does help out with your clear sum. And maybe not able to get 100% use out of it, but certainly still good.
Vulcan's really strong, though, against the Erlang, I think, because you've got that meatball that can knock him up from the turtle form right as he's trying to blink initiate on you. And SmiteVOD doesn't even have the blink. Will get Geb shielded, however, and gonna be able to roll on out of there. Inbound, though, just stuck holding Noitulover in place.
This is fine. He's out of position, and Inbound able to find first blood. So everything we've been saying about the Geb so far, it ends up working for them here. Geno had already used the ultimate, so he wasn't waiting on that. He was just kind of locking down the Geb so the rest of his team could collapse.
LeaaN had no mana. That was the only reason why we don't see Inbound, I think, falling there, because I'm not even sure that LeaaN had enough to charge the detonate, much less look for any follow-up off of his own ultimate.
Being to the benefit of LG as they recognize an opportunity and find the first kill of the game, though so far first blood has not been much of an indicator of who's been able to win the game. But let's go back and take a look at Inbound, able to find that first blood, thanks to Respawn one more time for making sure we have it here. He's going to go for the pull onto the Geb, and they kind of hold it.
It was a really great shield, though, from Noitulover. And not only that, but I believe also the turtle form gave Smitero a small shield, and then a shell might have also... No, it was a sprint that I think Noitulover tried to proc there in the end. Luminosity, though, really reaching for these engagements. I mean, that was a pretty forced initiation. I think they got a little bit lucky there to manage to find a pick from it. But when you factor in that Luminosity have been consistently stripping away numerous buffs from Nocturns and the left and right mid Harpies, yet the only real significant lead in this game is that of a First Blood gold bounty, I can't really say that this early game is playing off super well for Lumi.
Yeah, so far we haven't quite seen enough, and that's okay. You know, LG still have a window to certainly make this competition work, and I don't think they entirely fade away in the late game either, but I think that you definitely got to give that favor over to Nocturns. They just had to find a little bit more of a lead here in this early game, but I think you are right to say we likely won't see that type of initiation working again. That time, Noitulover didn't hold the shield until someone was actually picked up. That's when you want to drop it so that you can, you know, get rid of the Ragnarok form and get them out of there. If he's patiently waiting on that, then Inbound will have even less value.
It is smart, though, to bring down the Geb early on. This is by far the most punishable period that Noitulover is going to experience, and if you can do anything to slow down the progression of this Geb, you're typically going to be in a pretty swell spot.
That's a good point. If Geb is the one you pick up, then the cleanse won't be there. But how much longer is killing Geb going to be the viable strat? It is often the worry that you have, right, when you're trying to target out those supports early on, is how long can that be viable? We'll see if they can make it keep working.
Trying to kill the tank is what caused Luminosity Game 2 here, so...
That's right, they commit on the Daelon, yeah.
Can't feel super comfortable with Game 3.
See if they can make it work. There's Geno now, taking a look at these mid-Harpies. Matero right there with him, but not going to be any real more follow-up on the back end of that. Weaken keeping it traditional on the back end of the Golden Blade, going into the boots. I know you said you did like the matchup here with this Nemesis into the Erlang Shen. It could be similarly strong up against Daelon or Geb and maybe keep the tank killing strategy viable later on. Where do you primarily want to see this Nemesis thing?
Probably in the mid game. I think that Weaken's sole duty is going to be trying to explode LeaaN as quickly as possible, because Zeus is probably the most dangerous member of Nocturn's composition right now, and Nocturns are basically trying to make LeaaN and Zaionsix the stars yet again. That's kind of been the reoccurring theme for Nocturns, is to just make their hunter and mid laner stand out.
Try and put them in the best position. Game 2, Smitero had a couple of good ganks that really helped seal the deal, but it was the damage coming out, like you said, from LeaaN and Zaionsix that was really helping to bring it home. So they'll want to keep that formula going if things have slowed down just a little bit here past the 10-minute mark. LG, to start the game off, were repeatedly invading the red buffs, were repeatedly kind of aggressing into the jungle to try and put Nocturnes behind. And they've done that a little bit in the duo lane, but they can't do that safely, it feels like, anymore.
It's not safe. Nothing is guaranteed right now for Luminosity. I don't even think anything's really all that guaranteed for Nocturns either.
Yeah.
Nocturns kind of understanding they're the ones having to bide their time here. Unchained going to be just a little bit off the mark here. And that's not the first one that we've seen fail to connect from Inbound either. I think he's got to be careful also, because soon enough, these missed jump-ins to try and get the stun initiation are going to end up resulting in LeaaN just tossing out a chain lightning, getting a couple of detonate charge stacks going, and then blowing up Inbound.
Even if he connects them, that is what the initiation is, clearly, right, from LG right now. There's no blink or anything like that for him either. He's jumping in, looking for that stun, and whoever else is there has got to be ready immediately to blow him up and try and control him, or something to force him back in the back end and try and punish these leaps. Because so far, Inbound has been going for them very cavalier. He has been very free looking for these jumps.
Because he's been permitted to.
Yeah.
And Nocturnes, they're happy to sit and farm it out for a little bit longer. And I don't think Luminosity have fully realized just yet how dangerous things are starting to become, because once the secondary relics come into play, I think that's where we really start to see Nocturnes turn it up a notch.
Yeah, it should make things even harder for LG once Nocturnes have that extra degree of safety, you know, some shell, Aegises, whatever they want to pick up to try and mitigate the big follow-up damage from Geno and the control from Inbound to set up for the rest of the team. We saw them doing a lot of damage mitigation in their builds last time. Certainly wouldn't be surprised if we see more of that.
Interesting first buy pickup also from Inbound. Not only does he have the reinforced Greaves on this Fenrir, but he's also got the Genji's Guard. That's not the most conventional second buy support item.
We'll see if they can make it work. It's going in. It's Terra looking for the taunt. Ultimate over the top. But it's actually LG who look like they're the ones who took a smack, and because they did, LeaaN dropped down the ultimate and really brought the hurt. And they won Inbound. Look at the loop around from Noitulover. Great Ragnarok, though, gets him out.
Inbound still turning back around there for a second as Zaionsix rolls into Clout. Astral Barrage going to get him to avoid the airstrike. Now looking to return fire onto Clout. Aega is going to be forced out as well, but now Daelon's here to play party of this pick onto Clout.
Inbound had the horrific emblem still available. It kept him alive for the moment. Somehow no one has died still in this prolonged engagement. We saw starting in middle lane looking to chase down Bobby and leading all the way over to a man fight in duo. But in the end, everyone falls back. A lot of ultimates, a lot of relics used, but no one falls.
Good distraction factor, though, from Nocturnes. All eyes were so focused on that duo lane, you almost missed out on the rotation happening underneath. And Luminosity, of course, were able to spot it out, and that's what prompts them to hard disengage from that entire side of the map.
I am a little bit surprised, though. LeaaN is really going to have to continue being the focus for them, because Kiki comes in and starts it off with a taunt. We'll hold that thought, as Daelon might be in a bit of trouble here on the right-hand side. Beads have been forced out to keep up this chase from Weaken. They're going to keep chasing the tower as well, as Daelon's too low. Shell used, can't get the dash off the taunts there, as Gold Fury ends up being pulled and dropped. But Daelon lives on the right-hand side.
He survived. That's all that really counts here. Inbound gonna jump in place.
Oh, no.
And that was a little bit of a question mark, gamer. I'm not really sure what's going on there.
That wasn't it, Chief. If you're looking for the look, that was not
hey,
it.
Chief, was that it?
No, it definitely ain't. As now the rest of Nocturnes gonna pull the Gold Fury, but this could be it as Kiki comes around the backhand side. SmiteVOD blown up right away. Clout brings in the damage, and just like that, Nocturnes can't cleanly decide what they want to do on Gold Fury, and now it's gonna go LG's way.
Should have been the staggered backs from Nocturnes after they found the pick onto Inbound. I think they had the pressure, but they're not willing to give it up just yet. Zaionsix in that last attempt goes for the Astral Barrage finish. Is unsuccessful, however. And Luminosity, they find the first real lead of the game with that Gold Fury.
I really like the Sentry Ward at that top right mid lane path coming in too. I think that's what really allows Kiki to come in very undetected to make sure you can find that taunt. But I mean, if you're Nocturnes, when you get those opportunities where you have the numbers advantage, you got to be able to cleanly decide what action you want to take. They've waffled in between, and that's how come LG are able to come in and find a cleanup.
It's not the first time that we've seen those small periods of hesitation amount to much bigger problems for these international teams. And Nocturnes, probably one of the least likely international teams to fall victim to it, but the moments where it does take place usually results in some pretty impactful instances. For example, Game 1, that was exactly what took place around that Fire Giant pit. They kind of hesitated for a second and ended up losing the Fire Giant, which funneled into the game later on. But hold that thought, Inbound still looking to go in here onto SmiteVOD and Daelon.
Terra, though, survives quite a bit of damage. Inbound wants to jump again, but a big heal comes out from that 9 turns blessing, and now the tide is turned. They want Kiki. A little bit of help coming out from that Earth and Fury as well from Daelon. They survive the gank attempt and send LG on their way.
It just looks like Nocturnes are there. They're like 99% of the way there, and they're just waiting on that last little 1% tick to come into play. This weekend, nice dash away, gonna keep him safe and sound, but same can't be said for Geno. He went in onto LeaaN, and now might have bit off a little bit more than he can chew. SmiteVOD, this should be an easy one to clean up, and in fact, no time at all, brings down the Vulcan.
That time, Geno goes a little bit too far forward, gets punished. I think the knockup kept that from being even cleaner in favor of Nocturnes. Inbound jumps in aggressively, but he's gonna lead him right towards the rest of the team. Good call to cancel that one and get on out of there. Inbound, he did not want to follow that train.
can be a little bit scary on some of these brutalizers of Fenrir when you're along for the ride on the dash. Sometimes you end up in a tower, sometimes you end up on a fire giant strike, and other times you wind up in the middle of 4 people.
Inbound recognizing that was not it, as we have already said, and he ends up falling back. Good damage coming out from LeaaN in the middle lane. But once again, Nocturns are kind of hanging with them. But if you take a look at the golden experience, it's still favoring LG just a bit. 1,600, 1,700 gold, about 2,000 experience going the order side way.
But these slight golden experience leads aren't ones that can let Luminosity be cozy for even a second. I mean, at any moment, the tides could shift, and this could be Nocturne's game yet again. I think the real issue at bay here is the fact that Luminosity just... I don't see them holding on to any sort of lead if this match goes 30 minutes plus.
It will be difficult for them, especially if LeaaN continues the excellent positioning we've seen from him really all day long, right? With the off-wash, it was really strong from him. We saw it here from him on the Zeus as well. If he can continue to find these strong spots to drop big ultimates down where he can't really be punished, then the late game is going to be very difficult indeed for LG.
Still, Luminosity wanting to push for more. I like this from Clout too, finally taking advantage of zoning out the waves. It's not entirely necessary, but if Zaionsix isn't going to have anybody to come help back him up, then Clout might as well keep the Ram wondering if there's a gank coming through.
That is the one area where the early lead has kind of come through, right? Is that dual lane. Zaionsix and Noitulover have been behind a bit. Inbound, though, with his spill has kind of evened things back up. But it's Zaionsix on this ROM that is the only hangover, I would say, from the early advantage that LG has had so far. If they can get that one equalized out, then really, you know, the Fenrir support hasn't gotten them much at all if they can't hold on to that lead for Clout.
SmiteVOD can't really afford to dance with 2 of them, Inbound and Weekend, trying to invade on that red buff. Or it looked like they were just trying to be aggressive in general against SmiteVOD, but couldn't find their opportunity. Nice pin over the wall, gonna end up stealing away at least one of those mid-harpies. And now LeaaN having returned to the mid lane. I want to see Nocturnes go in against Inbound while he doesn't have that Ragnarok available. He's a sitting duck for any Cataclysm. Even the Shockwave could CC him long enough for LeaaN to get some significant damage against him.
They absolutely could, and Inbound has not been particularly patient with them so far. I think for good reason. You know, you got to play this Fenrir aggressively if you're putting it in the support role. So he's done that well. But if that's the case, then it's your job as Nocturnes to come in and try and punish that once those abilities are down. But again, this Hunter matchup is where the punishment is, I think, for Nocturnes. Clout level 18 right now, and really Zaionsix cannot step up in this matchup.
This is a rough one for Ram, though, because in general, I think that Ram has always been at a slight disadvantage against the Jing Wei. She has such great initiation tools against him, like the Persistent Gust off of his ultimate if he goes for the Astral Barrage a little bit too soon. Airstrike to avoid any damage from the Astral Barrage even. So it's complicated for Zion for sure, trying to work his way in here.
There'll be some trouble for Daelon as well, as he's been brought down to about half HP in the middle lane, gets away. Now it's Inbound who has to use the Ragnarok defensively. He's going to look back for another pull, can't find anything there. And now he's that target you mentioned earlier. He no longer has that CC immunity from the ult.
Weekend with the Haste and Katana too, just heckling Daelon in the mid lane, not allowing this Terra to come back up the rest of his team. Clout has the Poison Star online, and they are shredding this Gold Fury. Zaionsix going up into the air, trying to do what damage he can. But as soon as this ends, I don't think that Luminosity can continue pushing into it. They want the fight now.
Well, Noitulover's very low on the backside already. Geno's used his ultimate, but now he's stuck in between SmiteVOD and everyone else. He ends up falling. Noitulover could certainly end up falling to Weekend with the Hasten Katana. That makes it 1-for-1 mid for support, but Nocturnes can't feel too bad about that one. They got Geno and took out that Vulcan, but it's LG who are going right back to the Gold Fury.
Luminosity with a little bit more of an advantage here because Clout is still full health. As long as Clout is this healthy, that's a free Gold Fury for the team. They pushed back Nocturnes, they did their job, but that fight was not a clean one, Finch. The target focus is what I'm really noticing from Luminosity the most. Inbound just doesn't really ever seem to be on the same page as the other frontlining members from Lumi.
And he does end up getting punished for it, but that's good recognition, I think, from LG, because on paper, they had no advantage in that fight, right? In fact, they were the ones who had just committed a lot of cooldowns from Bobby on this Fenrir, but they still forced the fight because Nocturnes don't have a way in. Now they're doing the same thing onto the Pyromancer Clout. As long as he is ahead, he can force these objectives and force Nocturnes into fights they don't want to take.
Clout, though, down to half health from pulling that Pyromancer without any assistance from his team. And now Nocturns, they could be the ones that very well want to take this Pyromancer for their own. And I think they're going to get it. Jump over the wall from Inbound, going to end up catching out two, but no one to grab in that Ragnarok.
They unleash the objective. Nocturns grab it after LeaaN drops down the ultimate to make sure that they confirm it. Geb Shield is there so that Daelon can keep up the aggression, but can't find anyone with the root. They force out LG and grab the objective, but not much else they can do here. Looks like Nocturns just going to go back to farming.
Is it crazy? I almost wish that Nocturns would have started pulling the Fire Giant.
To at least like force LG back in.
Luminosity were already sitting kind of low, and they'd expended a lot of their important initiation ultimates like Inbound, Ragnarok. Geno still had the Earthshaker, of course, which could have been a very viable Fire Giant's like steal secure. I just don't think that Nocturnes would have necessarily had to commit to that fire. I think they could have baited Luminosity into a really poor engagement.
If they could have done it cleanly, that could have potentially been a problem for LG, but fortunately they didn't have to deal with it. A fight breaking out here on the left-hand side over this Tier 1 tower, but Nocturne's not going to defend it, not this late. They give that one up. But look at this build from Weekend here, Taco. Nemesis has the Witchblade now later on the build. The Hasten Katana, the Golden Blade, and the Witchblade, it's not a ton of power that's available to this Nemesis so far, but she's able to stick to these targets and not going to take as much damage.
It's more utility than anything else, and I like this from Weekend. I think that's exactly the direction it needs to be headed. Luminosity preferred to make Clout their shining star, and I think that's exactly what they're going to get with these itemization choices and the setup that they do have available for the Jingwei.
And it could potentially limit SmiteVOD and Zaionsix's options too, right? Like, to try and slow down these auto-attack focused characters, and Erlang in a lot of ways has been. We've seen him trying to stick to these targets with the Wingblade to help out, but Daelon might be in a little bit of trouble. They bring him right back towards Clout, and those are huge damage numbers. The crit removes Daelon from the map, and they should be able to grab this Tier 1 too.
Worst case scenario right now for Nocturnes, because now they're all left to shuffle and play defense. Weekend, Inbound, and Clout will manage to take down this T1 tower before anybody else from Nocturnes has a chance to respawn. They should be able to defend their T2 relatively easily, but Geno has spotted out SmiteVOD and doesn't want to take his chances against this Erlang Shen, so he's going to go ahead and group up with the rest of his team.
They have a lot of wards down there, so they definitely know where SmiteVOD's moving around the map. Meanwhile, Kiki keeping the wave pushed up in dual lane on the left-hand side and can Defender of Olympus in at any time. Weekend has to use beads to get away from the aggression from SmiteVOD, and still Kiki patiently holding onto the ult. He does not need to join this yet.
Wisely played, though, from SmiteVOD. Turtle knockout to cancel out the Nemesis shield because of the CC.
Yep.
And then, not only that, ultimate to pull him back in just to make sure that he strips those beats. Now, Weekend, if he wants to all in against Nocturnes, will have to be a lot more patient with his pathing.
Yeah, we've been known a split push Athena was legit, Tuck. As she grabs the Tier 2 tower slowly on the left-hand side, and now is able to get a little bit extra gold for LG. Now, this is sort of around that gold lead mark that I would have said was definitely relevant early on. We're 25 minutes in. It's 6,200 gold, 8,000 experience. That is still a lot. And we've said Nocturnes had the late game advantage. Is this enough for LG?
I want to see the 5v5 action take place. I'm not sold on anything until I see what a raw 5v5 looks like between these two teams, because so far it's predominantly just been Luminosity finding an odd pick here and there, and then Nocturnes occasionally having the response. We haven't really had an opportunity to see what takes place whenever these two teams clash head on.
That is the dash down from Kiki, so Defender of Olympus left to come out immediately. It absolutely does. They instead rotate over to the mid lane to grab this Tier 1. Right now they're spreading the map on Nocturnes quite well. A good two-man Cataclysm comes out. Lightning Storm's right there, but Clout is the one that finds Noitulover. Geno removes SmiteVOD from the game as well. The LG do have some low HP bars. Zaionsix gets two snipes, can't find the third. That's enough to bring Inbound low, but not to find the kill. LG find yet another good fight.
Just barely clinging on. Two members of Luminosity that could have very well been an even 2-for-2 trade out. And still, Lumi just a little bit too low to want to pull that Fire Giant right away. They're still respecting Nocturnes, and I think it mostly comes as a result of what happened there in Game 2. Luminosity were starting to get a little bit overconfident in their plays, and, well, they ended up wiping against Nocturnes, and that led to a game loss. Daelon here now trying to play defense against the Fire Giant, but I think Nocturnes are just content with letting this one go and looking for farm elsewhere.
And I think that they have to. That's Fire Giant down for LG. First one of the game. And now a relatively large power spike for them as well. They've got the Golden Experience lead. The Fire Giant adds to that, and a couple tier 2 towers to go grab. But what LG have done a great job here these last 6-7 minutes is just spreading the map. Nocturns are playing entirely reactive, and they cannot keep up with LG.
Nocturnes just seem confused as to whether they should play defense or go on the offensive. And as long as Luminosity can keep Nocturne spread super thin, then they won't necessarily have to worry as much about the teamfight capability from Nocturne's draft.
But one place it's going to be very hard to keep them spread thin is going to be on these Phoenix Sieges, which should sort of naturally play in a little bit better to the draft that Nocturnes have with this Geb, with this Zeus, and the Terra, Earth, and Fury all there and available to them. But Luminosity have such a lead at this point. This is the lead we were saying they needed to build up, and they eventually were able to get there. And you add Fire Giant on top of that. Even with this strong comp, Nocturnes are going to have a very hard time trying to defend these bases.
Kiki right now, lone wolfing in on this left-hand side. Probably just to bring up the wave, and I like this from Luminosity solo laner. I think this is exactly what Kiki needs to be doing. That way Luminosity have more than just one lane to aggress on. But here's the question. Can they hold out on these sieges? Nocturnes, they failed in game 1, but now with an even better composition for turtling in game 3, I think that Luminosity might not find it to be a walk in the park taking down these Phoenixes.
Not be as easy as they think, as they're going to send Nemesis over to the mid lane. Weaken will be the one with SmiteVOD coming to join him. So the 4v4 happening in left, and SmiteVOD trying to get the better of Weaken here in the 1v1 trade. Experience, not as big of a difference at this point. It's all about the gold differential as Inbound jumps in aggressively. He has found LeaaN, but immediately they've got the Geb Shield there to help out. Daelon goes in for the Earth and Fury, but he might pay for it with his life. He's rather low. Here comes the ultimate right at his feet from Geno, but he's low as well and has to run away.
Nice snipes from Zion, but it's not going to be enough. Geno's still left standing as Weaken brings down Noitulover. Huge blow to Nocturne's defensive line here. Without that Geb, those shields are not going to be able to cleanse much of anything or provide that additional little bit of health.
It's going to be that much easier for them to come in, but they will not have Geno for it. He's in the jungle trying to heal up. Inbound jumps in aggressively while they let Clout do the work onto the Phoenix. Meanwhile, Weaken finds the Phoenix in mid lane as well. Clout now has to airstrike away, and he is able to retreat. They turn their attention towards Inbound, who buys Clout just enough time to retreat, but the two-man stun is there. Daelon gets Clout and takes the cloak away from Inbound.
Zion still trying to go aggressive here, but Weaken's looking entirely at Daelon. Shell will be popped. HRX not going to be able to close the gap, but Zion, he doesn't have enough mana to roll out. He's just going to get spammed by Weaken into his death.
And HRX means he can stick right on top of that target. One more important kill for the jungler coming out from Luminosity Gaming. Mid Phoenix already down. Left side Phoenix is crumbling to rubble as well. Nocturnes trying to collect their defenses, trying to keep their hopes alive. But right now LG are pulling at every string, and they just look a little too strong.
Nocturnes just have to hang in there for a little bit longer. Their comp is nearly at the point where they are fully online, but almost doesn't quite cut it.
It absolutely does not. Can Nocturnes hold on long enough? That job is going to get even more difficult, that now they have two waves of fire minions to contend with in the mid and left side lane. Fire Giant is falling off LG here in another 20 seconds. They will fall back to the FG to try and make one more defense. But once again, LG have done such a good job of splitting Nocturnes, and now they're too far behind, Taco. They don't have enough damage. They got Geno so low, but couldn't do enough. They can't punish Inbound when he jumps in under the Phoenix.
I believe Geno also had the Aegis for one of those Astral Barrage shots that I think might have ended up bringing him down had all three managed to fully connect. Still, every single relic on Luminosity, all but expended, not counting Kiki's teleport and the horrific that's about to come up again for Inbound. I honestly just think that Nocturnes need to all in on this Fenrir. When Inbound jumps in and fails to find a Ragnarok target, you just have to turn and burn.
Try and punish him immediately. This has been one of Bobby's better games, honestly, that we've seen this set. 1-1-5 on this Fenrir, and he's been a real conundrum for Nocturnes trying to deal with. SmiteVOD, though, is too far forward all on his own. The blink does get him away from the Magma Bomb. The ultimate's there just for the heal to give himself some more survivability. They will see him on these minions, but I guess he's okay with it. They're going to keep chasing him. That is some time wasted, at least for now, as Clout is going to hunt him down.
Clout's not going to let this one go. He knows SmiteVOD is right around the corner, and SmiteVOD has no idea that he's also got Inbound with him. This is one dead Erlang if I've ever seen it, and any hopes Nocturns might have had of contesting this Fire Giant go out the window as soon as SmiteVOD falls.
And a lengthy timer he'll get as his punishment for overstepping on the order side of the map. Another 50 seconds until we'll see him again. Nocturns will instead fall back for the defense. Remember, they still don't have Phoenixes in mid or in duo lane. This fight will likely be happening over here in solo around the lone remaining Phoenix, the lone remaining hope for Nocturns. Obey awaits the winner of this game, whoever it may be, and right now, it's looking like it's LG.
Nice Cataclysm in from Noitulover. Inbound already falling incredibly low. Zeus ultimate going to come out on top as well, but Inbound will stay alive thanks to that Athena ultimate and the shell.
It's enough to keep him alive, and Weekend finds the double. He's sticking to Noitu as well. Triple kill for Weekend on the Nemesis and letting him hear it. You thought you were going to stop him here? Well, you're not. LG going to be able to find their way on through in the upper bracket. It was not easy, but they take down Nocturnes here in Game 3.
Still a little bit too close for comfort if you ask me, Finch. Luminosity might have gotten away with it against Nocturnes, but Obey is an entirely different story.
Oh, it's not going to be easy at all. They're going to have to clean up some of what we saw here from them. I know that this is sort of the identity for Bobby. He likes to play these aggressive picks. He likes to be the focus of the enemy team, but a team like Obey will get those picks much cleaner. They'll punish him much stronger. I like what we saw here from Nocturnes. It just wasn't quite enough today.
And they came so close here. I think that game 2, they had so much momentum heading into the third match, but it just felt like they were hesitating a little bit too much, wanting to play super passive, and that allowed Luminosity one too many chances to just punish Noitulover, and that funneled into a small experience lead, and all of that stuff kind of just carried on throughout the match.
And I think early on in the game that worked, Taco, because they were able to kind of answer blow for blow. The problem was when the map started getting stretched out. As meme as it might sound, I really think the Athena split push in duo on that tier 2 was what really started help breaking the back and finding them some extra gold, because Nocturnes couldn't respond in different areas fast enough.
Well, it wasn't even just the Athena split push onto the T2, but then immediately after that, Kiki ults into the mid lane. They take a T1 in mid, so the map pressure is already pretty much entirely in Luminosity's favor.
It's a lot of extra gold they're able to grab too, and they able to take a very strong lead on the back end of that. You can see LG happy after being able to grab their victory, but are they going to be able to make the step up in gameplay? That's definitely going to be necessary up against a team like Obey. That has to be what's on their minds, as Nocturnes put a bit of a scare from them there in that game 1.
And still, for Nocturnes, they're down, but they're not out just yet. There is still the loser bracket that they can try to make their run through to try and make it into the finals. It's a little bit of slimmer opportunities there, I think, but the chances are still alive.
I think after that performance, you cannot feel good if that's who you're playing against in the lower bracket. Nocturnes showed they absolutely have a lot, and they are not done yet. They'll go to lower bracket. LG will be moving on against Obey. And I'm going to be getting y'all over to the desk. Let them break down what they saw in that game.
Thanks a lot there, John. Fantastic stuff coming out from Nocturnes and LG. Ultimately, Luminosity Gaming are the ones that are going to win in 3 games. And the first thing I want to start this conversation off with the right tone. I think when we look at losses or wins like this, a lot of the conversation can revolve around, they shouldn't have even been in Game 3. LG need to feel bad about that. No, Nocturnes played their faces off, and this was a team that gave LG problems because they're just that good.
They really are, and Nocturnes definitely has a lot that they can build on off of this. I just feel like this Game 3, the draft seemed so good, but the execution did not from Nocturnes. I thought LeaaN did the least damage, and maybe not statistically, but just the least effectiveness out of any of the 3 picks we saw. If you're going to early pick this Zeus, I've got to see more from it than I did from LeaaN. He had to play so far back throughout that entire game. Noitulover is just getting absolutely focused by this Fenrir support, which Inbound played very well, and there just needed to be more support from his team, and Noitu didn't really get it.
I think that's the big thing, is Bobby just kept LeaaN so far back that he could not get that damage off. It was all being dropped onto Bobby on that Fenrir the entire game, keeping him into the backline there. I mean, just taking a look at the damage here, just so much damage over onto really Luminosity, the most effective of it, just even stat lines through.
Look at the damage mitigated for Inbound. 31,000 mitigated, another 27,000 taken. Look at Noitulover's in comparison. I mean, that is a Geb that's supposed to be there to soak up all this damage and be able to frontline for you, and he really couldn't because he was constantly getting picked up. And Kiki as well did 30k mitigated himself. the front line here for Luminosity was just too strong this game.
Player damage was pretty low on Nocturns as well. As always, thank you to Access Replay for our post-game stats. The player that did stand up above everybody else for LG, though, is Clout. Fantastic job, MVP of the set. This guy looked really, really good, and Clout's going to be our Steel Series MVP of the match.
He played so well in Game 1, and like I said, during that post-game segment, I really felt like he was the main reason Clout with it, and Luminosity was able to come back. Game 2, this Hou Yi didn't work out quite as well as LG was hoping, but Game 3, he was just consistently in the right spots, dealing great player damage. Geno as well did a lot of player damage in this set, specifically on the 2 Vulcan games. He looked very good. So if you're a Luminosity fan, as bad as it feels that this had to go to 3 for you, I also feel like you should be encouraged by the way that Clout and Geno played on each side. So I'm really looking at those 2 damage dealers to do a lot of good work for you moving forward.
Clout and Geno aren't going to let their team lose. That's what this set felt like to me. And I go back to that moment where Clout just goes, I guess I'll solo the Gold Fury. Fine. His team's feeding in the mid. Somebody dotted there, and he's, you know what? I'll just do this, and he does it. And then he goes, you know what? I'll just get a tier 2 on the left side, and he does it. And then that's the gold that ties the game for them in game number 1. I mean, Clout's out here just kind of going for the gold himself. So LG take it above Nocturns. As we said, double elimination, so Nocturns will have a secondary chance. And I'm glad because I want to see more. I was all in with the Latin Americans there. It was fun to watch.
I mean, I'm hooked on this Latin American team after their performance, especially in game number 2. Coming back is such a big thing for these international squads, like I mentioned in game number 2. Being able to stand up when you're down is such a huge thing for them, and these guys are going to make a huge run in the lower bracket.
It certainly has that potential, man. I think this team is looking really good.
Yeah, it was crazy. I mean, we were talking Nocturns. What if they had Beltway?
Hey, Daelon played well. I'm not ready to say that they would have won that set without, with Beltway instead. I think that Daelon obviously has the one mistake in game 1, but other than that, on the Terra, played very, very well.
Certainly a strong fit. They do lose to Luminosity Gaming, though. And standing by, we've got new player Bobby and Steel Series MVP, Clout.
All right, I'm here with Clout and Inbound. Hunter and support for LG. First off, congratulations on your victory. It was a little close in there. Were y'all? I saw y'all still laughing on the cams and everything. Were y'all nervous at any point in that game with how close Nocturns made it look?
I'll take this one, I guess. Yeah, I mean, our team atmosphere is pretty good right now. I think we all mesh together pretty well, so we're always going to be laughing. That's just what we do, even in a loss. Those games, they should have been so much easier. Honestly, I don't think that team is that good. And even though we're last seed NA, we should have been able to close it out so much sooner. So sucks to be us, I guess.
Well, with the completion of this set, how do you guys feel about moving onwards to playing against Obey tomorrow? Because I'd imagine that you don't want to have any repeats of what happened here today.
We'll be ready. This Nocturnes team plays like a lot differently than we were used to. Like the NA teams really don't play like it, and they prioritize different stuff. But we'll be ready for Obey. We'll definitely put in some work tonight, and we'll be ready.
Honestly, this set is the result of us going into it with zero preparation. We honestly, I thought these were going to be so free, and we won, which is great. But I really thought they would be a lot easier. So going into Obey, we'll have a lot more prep done beforehand, so our pick spans will be on point, and we'll know what to do.
We definitely expect y'all to be able to put up some good games there. You all definitely had some unique picks here in this game. How much more do you guys have, in the tank? You don't have to be specific about it, but do you also have a lot left to sort of surprise people with?
The Anubis thing was, we talked about it at dinner last night. Gino's like,
I was
a comfort
sleeping.
pick. You would never let that. Anyway, yeah, we talked about it at dinner last night, so it wasn't really something we really practiced, and that's one of the couple things we wanted to play going into this LeaaN. It's not the end of it, but that's something we definitely considered. We're thinking about not holding everything back just because we don't want to lose.
Well, this one's actually a little bit more about your coach here, but how do you guys feel with having Haiti on the squad now? What has he helped to contribute towards your guys' preparation for this event?
Well, I wasn't here before he was here, so I don't know exactly what he did before, but he just helps us with picks and bans and just gives us notes about what we need to work on and how we need to change our play. Not really too much other than that.
He doesn't do much. He slept the whole day.
So did you. Dude, I wasn't going to be VM. I was going to say he does a lot.
Well, I'm glad to see you
Good
guys
coach.
are still in good spirits. Absolutely. Congratulations on your win. Look forward to seeing a little bit more from y'all up against your match with Obey as well. Thanks.
Thank you.